Welcome. Today, we're going to tell a story. It's one that was sent to us by one of you, actually, pulled from personal notes, memories. It's about a specific place and some really unsettling experiences connected to it. It's the story of a Thai individual who went to work in South Korea and, well, ended up in a room with a pretty dark secret. Room number 13.
Yeah, and this isn't just, a simple ghost story. It's more like a narrative where different accounts, different pieces of evidence, they all seem to point in the same direction. It builds this really chilling picture of what might have happened inside those walls.
Right. So our aim today is to walk through this account, sort of step by step, see the events as they unfolded for the narrator and, figure out what insights come out of this very specific, very strange experience. Let's unfold this tale.
Okay, so the story kicks off, like a lot of stories do, with a fresh start. Our narrator, a Thai person, gets to South Korea. They're all set for a new job, everything's legal, feeling hopeful. Their employer seems decent, described as kind, helps them get settled, finds them a small rented room in an older apartment building, like 4 stories high, and the room they get, 3rd floor, right opposite the top of the stairs, room 13.
Mm-hmm. That number and the location, they definitely stand out right from the beginning, especially when you know what happens later in the source material. But yeah, at this point, the narrator's just knackered from traveling, right? Just wants to crash.
Exactly. So first night, they're getting ready for bed. Now, apparently, these Korean apartments often have double doors for soundproofing. An outer one, then an inner one into the room itself. And as the narrator's approaching their room, before they even open that second inner door, they hear something. Faint, but clear. Coming from inside. A woman scream.
Wow, that's quite a welcome. But like you said, it's faint. Easy enough to second guess yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it another room? Did I imagine it because I'm tired? It's just a blip, really, at this stage.
Right. They dismiss it, go to bed. But the strangeness doesn't quite stop there. Later that night, maybe 2 a.m., the narrator wakes up. And they get that feeling, the one, like someone's watching you.
Oh, yeah. Creepy.
And they look, and it's blurry at first, but then it gets clear. There's a figure standing at the foot of the bed, a woman, shoulder-length hair.
Okay.
And she doesn't just stand there, she starts to move. Slowly, deliberately. Walks in a circle around the bed. Once, twice, 3 times.
3 times, that's specific.
Yeah. Then she turns and just vanishes into the bathroom. The narrator's shaken, obviously, but still kind of half asleep. Drifts back off, not sure, was that a dream? Was it real?
Well, it's often in that state, isn't it? Between sleep and waking.
Yeah.
That's when these things seem to happen.
Yeah.
Makes them easy to doubt later. But the source really emphasizes how distinct it felt. The figure, her actions, even then.
So, next day comes, work starts, life happens, the weirdness from the night kind of fades. And the narrator meets another Thai worker, Pai Tao. And just by chance, he lives in the same building.
Ah, okay.
They click pretty quickly, build a connection, which turns out to be pretty important later. They make plans to grab drinks after work.
Yeah, finding someone from home in a new place, that's huge. A real lifeline. And Pai Tao, well, he doesn't know it yet, but he's got some key pieces to this whole puzzle.
So that evening, the narrator pops back to room 13 just for a minute before meeting Pai Tao. And as they open that first door again...
Don't tell me.
Yep, that faint scream from inside the room. Again. And just like before, it stops dead the moment they open the inner door. And again, they try to brush it off. Nerves, maybe. Anyway, they meet Pai Tao. They hang out outside the building, drinking, talking. And the narrator makes a specific point in the source. Normally, alcohol helps them sleep really deeply. Like, no dreams, just out cold.
Okay.
But this night, even though they'd been drinking, it was different.
Oh.
They go back to the room, shower, get into bed, and then it happens. A dream. But terrifyingly vivid, like hyper real. The woman from the first night, she's back, standing at the foot of the bed again.
Okay.
But this time, she looks angry. And she's reaching out, trying to drag the narrator's leg off the bed. The feeling is intense, her nails digging into their ankle. Pure fear in the dream.
Wow, okay, that's a major escalation. From just seeing something, even if it's scary, to physical contact like that, even in a dream state. That's different.
Yeah. And then the narrator wakes up, suddenly, confused, and they look down and they're absolutely horrified because they're not lying in bed properly anymore. They're exactly how they were in the dream. Body shifted way down, legs and feet actually on the floor.
No way.
The feeling of being physically dragged is just overwhelming. And when they check their ankle,
Let me guess.
bruises. The source says they found bruises.
Okay, right. That changes things, doesn't it? Physical marks,
Yeah.
position change. That's not just a bad dream or, sleep paralysis. Maybe that's something else.
Yeah.
Makes it really hard to just dismiss.
Totally. They're deeply shaken now. They immediately look for something, anything, for protection. Find a Thai amulet they'd brought over, put it near the pillow, then just try to sleep again, pulling the blanket right over their head. So the next day, the narrator is just consumed by this. Why is this happening? Why this room? Room 13. They're pretty convinced now it's the room itself, but they're hesitant, telling someone. Especially being new, worried about seeming superstitious or crazy.
Understandable, yeah.
Yeah. Then Pai Tao, being friendly, invites them for drinks again. Offers to buy the beer even, but asks a favor. Can he crash in the narrator's room tonight? Says he had a fight with his girlfriend.
Oh, interesting timing.
Right. And the narrator, even though they're terrified of room 13, is actually sort of relieved. Company,
Safety in numbers, maybe?
Maybe. So they talk late. Eventually, Pai Tao feels the drinks, lies down on the bed, and just passes out. The narrator, maybe still a bit wary of the bed after the dream, decides to sleep on the floor.
Sleeping on the floor. That might be significant, given what happens next.
Well, yeah, because weirdly enough, the narrator sleeps okay on the floor. Soundly, even. But then around 3 or 4 a.m., they're woken up by this horrible sound coming from the bed, teeth grinding loudly.
Oh, God.
They look up, and it's Pai Tao. He's sitting bolt upright at the foot of the bed, shaking, violently shaking.
Okay, so this is it. This is where it stops being just the narrator's experience. It's shared now.
Yeah.
Someone else in the same room at the same time experiencing something. Independent verification.
Exactly. The narrator quickly asks Pai Tao, "What's wrong? What's happening?" And Pai Tao looks utterly terrified, face white, mouth trembling. He says he can't sleep, but worse, he says he feels like he can't leave the room, like he's stuck. He begs the narrator to help him get back to his own place.
Wow. Trapped.
Yeah. So the narrator helps him, gets him back to his own apartment nearby. They're about to say goodbye, and Pai Tao stops them, looks at them like totally bewildered, and asks, "How can you possibly sleep in that room?"
Here it comes.
Yep. The floodgates open. Pai Tao spills everything, tells the narrator room 13's been empty for months. Why? Because everyone who stays there bolts, almost immediately. Sometimes after one day, sometimes they don't even last the night.
Seriously.
He says all the Thai workers around there know about it. It's just common knowledge. Room 13 is haunted. He's actually amazed the narrator managed 3 whole nights.
Wow. Okay, so this is the first real external confirmation. It's not just in the narrator's head. There's a history, a reputation.
Oh, there's a history, all right. Pai Tao tells them the story. Less than a year ago, he says, a Thai couple lived there. Also worked at the same factory. Apparently they fought a lot, jealousy affairs, that kind of thing. One day, the boyfriend comes back to the room, finds his girlfriend with a Korean man. He just snaps, grabs a fruit knife, stabs the Korean guy multiple times, then turns on the girlfriend, stabs her repeatedly, kills her, right there, by the bed.
By the bed.
And then he drags her body into the bathroom to hide it, presumably. The Korean man, Pai Tao says, actually survived somehow. Ran out, got help, police, ambulance, the whole thing. Pai Tao wasn't totally sure what happened to the Korean guy long term, but the Thai boyfriend.
Arrested. Jesus. That's horrific. And the details Pai Tao gives, the murder by the bed, dragging the body to the bathroom, that aligns so closely, so chillingly with what the narrator experienced and what Pai Tao just went through. It really suggests, that kind of intense, violent trauma might leave something behind, an imprint on the place.
Exactly. And Pai Tao continues the story. After the murder, this Thai cleaning lady, Pawan, was hired to clean the room. Got extra pay, obviously, because it was gruesome. The room was sealed off for a while, but eventually they reopened it. But just like Pai Tao said, every single person who tried to rent it after that left almost instantly because of weird stuff happening, so it just stayed empty. Until the narrator moved in, completely unaware. Pai Tao basically begs the narrator, "You have to move out. Now."
I bet.
So with this absolutely devastating info, the narrator doesn't waste any time. Next day, straight to the Korean supervisor at the factory. Lays it all out. The sounds, the woman, the dream, the dragging, the bruises, what Pai Tao saw, the murder story, everything. Asks for a new room.
And the supervisor's reaction.
That's the thing. No disbelief, no hesitation. The supervisor just agrees. Immediately gives them a key to a new room right then and there. The narrator even notes in the source how strange that was. The supervisor wasn't surprised at all, maybe even expected it.
Yeah, that quick agreement, as the source points out, it does sort of suggest they might have known something, right? About the room's reputation or history. Adds another little layer.
So, new room secured. Narrator calls Pai Tao, asks him and some other friends to help move their stuff. The friends are running a bit late, so the narrator and Pai Tao head over to the new building first. It's nearby. While they're waiting, the narrator asks Pai Tao, okay, tell me exactly what happened to you last night, in detail.
Right, get the full story.
And Pai Tao describes it. Waking up because someone grabbed his ankle, yanked it hard off the bed.
Just like the narrator's dream.
Exactly like the dream. He woke up, saw the woman at the foot of the bed, but his description, even more terrifying. He says she was covered in blood.
Screaming loudly. Right at him!
Covered in blood.
He tried to run instinctively, but she blocked the door, screamed right in his face. He was just paralyzed with fear. She ran into the bathroom. Pai Tao said he desperately tried shaking the narrator awake on the floor but couldn't rouse them, so he just sat there, huddled up, terrified, grinding his teeth until the narrator finally woke up on their own.
Wow. That shared detail, the ankle pulling, seeing the bloody figure combined with the history, it just powerfully connects everything back to that violent event Pai Tao described. The bed, the bathroom area, it's all centered there.
Yeah. So just as they finished talking, the other friends arrived to help move. And as they're moving things into the narrator's new apartment, Pai Tao points something out. He says, you know Pa Wan, the cleaning lady, the one who cleaned room 13 after everything.
Yeah.
She works here now, in this building.
No way.
Yeah.
Talk about coincidence.
Right. And then later, after they've moved the stuff, the narrator actually bumps into Pa Wan downstairs, just by chance. Pai Tao points her out, encourages the narrator, go talk to her, ask her about room 13.
Oh, okay. This could be crucial.
The narrator is hesitant, but goes over, mentions they just moved out of room 13 in the old building, and Pa Wan's reaction. Instant. Shock. Deep concern floods her face. First thing she asks is, Did you experience anything strange in there?
Wow. So she knows. This is the third layer, isn't it? And maybe the most compelling confirmation. Someone directly involved in the aftermath who dealt with the physical reality of it. Her reaction, her testimony, it validates everything within the context of this source anyway.
Totally. The narrator tells her everything. Their experiences, Pai Tao's night, the murder story Pai Tao told them. Pa Wan just listens, nods, confirms the entire story. She says, yeah, after they reopened it, loads of people tried to live there, but nobody could stick it out. Strange things kept happening, which meant she had to keep going back in to clean it after tenants fled. Horrible.
God, imagine having to do that repeatedly.
And she shares her own experiences from cleaning that room. Constant goosebumps, she said, always feeling watched. Hearing screams, just like the narrator did, seeing things, lights going on and off by themselves, objects falling. She felt like the woman's spirit was just trapped there, trying desperately to show she was still present. It got so bad, so frequent and disturbing. Pa Wan eventually quit her job at that building altogether, couldn't take it anymore.
I blame her.
And then, the final piece. The most sort of visually shocking part mentioned in the source. Pa Wan tells the narrator she took a photo of the room right after the murder, before she cleaned.
A photo.
And she shows it to the narrator. The narrator looks at this photo and is just speechless. It shows the room, the floor, but especially the bed, just completely covered in bloodstains, horrifically so.
Seeing that. Photographic proof of the violence that happened right there. The source notes mentioned the amount of blood was because of, multiple wounds. The position. It makes it incredibly real. And Pa Wan's experiences, plus that image, it really hammers home the idea that something profoundly disturbing remained linked to that space.
And the narrator has this awful realization. The bed they slept in for 3 nights, that was the bed. The exact spot where the woman was murdered so violently, Pa Wan just looks at them, shakes her head, says emphatically, I would never, ever go back in that room.
Chilling. Absolutely chilling.
So this whole account, right, from that first little scream to seeing photographic proof, it really underscores the fear the narrator felt. Especially that moment, waking up, finding their legs physically moved, that tangible aspect. The source also mentions, just briefly, the whole idea of the number 13 being unlucky, how hotels skip the floor. And apparently in Thai, if you write 1 and 3 in a certain way, it sounds like P2, which means ghost, just another layer.
Right. So you've got this convergence presented in the narrative, the documented violent death, the repeated independent reports of really disturbing activity from different people, the physical and visual evidence mentioned.
Yeah.
It all builds this really powerful, unsettling case about room number 13, at least within the story we're told here.
Wow. Yeah. Following that story, it's quite the journey, isn't it? You arrive for a new job, get a room, and suddenly you're untangling this awful history, experiencing things yourself, all focused on that one number, 13.
It really is the way it all fits together in the source account that's striking. The initial vague feelings, then the bruises, Pai Dao's shared terror, and then finally Pao Wan's confirmation, someone who saw the direct aftermath and felt things herself. It all seems to align.
Absolutely. It makes you think, doesn't it, about the history places hold, older buildings especially, and how sometimes maybe that history doesn't just fade away, especially when it's violent. Anyway, if you found the story as gripping as we did, please do like, share, and subscribe to Horror Docs. We'd appreciate it. We've got more stories and deep dives coming up.
And it does leave you with a question, doesn't it? Building on that idea of history, if intense traumatic events can somehow leave a mark, an imprint on a physical space, could that imprint be stronger, maybe be more active when the death was sudden, violent? And perhaps, as those source notes suggested, happened far from home, without the usual ceremonies or rites to help the spirit move on.
That's definitely something to ponder. Thank you again for sharing this source with us and letting us tell its story today. Until next time.